Hey everybody, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program RP-0. We're starting off with some footage from our Twitch recap stream from last week. This, of course, is the Origami 4T on its way to Titan. Currently, it is in Saturn's SOI, and it just has to make a plane change maneuver, which will also result in its very first flyby of the giant moon, onto which we plan to fly our little foldable glider thingy. This mission has been in the works for a very, very, very long time, so it's nice to see that it's coming up on its final stages. Just a few flybys to normal out its orbital path before we can make a burn for insertion and then deploy our little atmospheric glider accordingly. I'm personally really excited about this mission. It is a really cool flight, and I can't wait to see how spectacularly it fails at flying in Titan's very peculiar atmosphere. So anyway, we are lined up to make our plane change burn. Here it is now. We're just going to widen that orbit out a little bit and match inclinations with Titan so that we can make our first intercept. And that first flyby, we're going to hope is going to give us a lot of slowing down. Oh, yep. Just overshot it by a little bit, but we'll bring that back to where it was, and then go in here, focus view on Titan, and then start to dial this in. Titan has a very, very high atmosphere. It comes up to like 600 kilometers or so. But it doesn't really get super dangerous until you, well, I mean, I guess that depends on your speed, but it doesn't really start to get dangerous till you get down to about the 300 or so kilometer mark, at least for this kind of speed. So we're going to try to make sure our flyby is as equatorial to the moon as possible. We don't want to be really ejecting our energy on changing our inclination relative to it again. We just fixed that through propulsion. So we'll dial this in and we'll try to keep ourselves close enough, but within a good margin. Maybe we'll scrape some atmospheric data. A little braking applied during this flyby would actually only benefit us, so maybe we'll just use some of the free energy from Titan's atmosphere. Here I was just seeing how much energy we'd need to change to capture ourselves into orbit. It's looking at about 4 kilometers per second, which is out of budget for our orbiter anyway, so I think one, maybe 2 flybys, and then we can go ahead and insert and circularize into a good orbit. We do still need to have enough fuel on the orbital stage to put the glider on a suborbital trajectory so that it can perform its tasks accordingly. The glider itself does not have long-range comms. There it is in our deployed position. Since it's been so long since we saw it flight ready, figured it would just be nice to look at and then retract it again. We'll probably go through that motion once or twice more just because it is really cool to watch it happen. A lot of work went into this thing that I did exactly once, and I'm very, very happy about it. We actually got so excited about all of this that we decided to queue up another origami glider of its original configuration, like the one that went to Venus, and we're going to decide to send it to Mars to see how bad we can make it fail there. So after this segment, we went to the VAB, queued up one on an original RA9 launch vehicle, and got it ready. That'll go out sometime in the coming years. Anyway, our Venus window was upon us, so after dealing with the test flight or two, we jumped out here to the launch pad with the Dionysus 501. This was a challenge mission built by a human person. It's kind of a get to orbit on a low TWR upper stage challenge. Anyway, it does have a rover cargo intended for Venus. Because it is our next Venus window, or it is supposed to be our next Venus window, we had every intention of launching a crew this window to inhabit Ostrich Station in low Venus orbit now that it is ready to take a crew. So we might as well get some hardware out there on the surface of Venus or otherwise in orbit of Venus. The crew of Chestnut and Ostrich will have remote guidance units with them, so since there are 6 Kerbals aboard, they will be able to remotely control any vehicle with really a signal delay coming from the station to target instead of from Earth to orbital relay to target. And with the orbital network that was launched either last window or 2 windows ago out of the back of the Shuriken flights, we'll actually have global comms. So any point on the surface of Venus, or most any point in orbit, we should have direct communications with from Ostrich Station in its nearly polar orbit. Anyway, our single RD-180 has gotten us off the pad. This will do most of our heavy lifting to orbit, as we do kind of aim high, intending to really kind of lob ourselves into orbit, where we start to angle down and build in some of that vertical speed. This engine does throttle back quite a bit. There is our fairing set, revealing our our staple David Hasselhoff upper stage and a light of a single RL-10. Now, I should mention, this is where the problems kind of became evident. This mission was built around an RL-10 that I do not yet have unlocked, and since I just dropped the ship file in, it reverted me back to a previous variant of the RL-10 that I do have unlocked, and I'll tell you right now, this RL-10 does not have 27 minutes of runtime. Not even close. It did take us quite a while to figure that out, despite the fact that the numbers for even Venus transfer on this vehicle and our speed needed to achieve orbit were just not really adding up. And even good old David Hasselhoff here couldn't keep this vehicle on point or even get it into orbit. Thought maybe assisting from the RSS, yeah, that was entirely futile, but it doesn't mean that we wouldn't try. And for those of you who remember, this was actually the second attempt at launching this vehicle. There goes the failure on the RL-10, way past its runtime and being so far from actually even being anywhere near orbital insertion. We've just gone ahead and jettisoned the package. We'll fold up the RCS booms and see about maybe at least recovering the payload so that we can use that again. There's the breakup of the upper stage, looking glorious as ever. The big problem here is that those parachutes that are on board are configured for Venus, so their deployment altitude is exceptionally low. Yeah, so complete loss of vehicle. Now, switching over again, this is actually post live stream footage. This is a Lima resupply pod on top of yet another Hassel lifter, the Hoff. And it's supposed to be bound for Venus. But as you know, we haven't even had a chance to adjust our targeting for Venus yet because, well, our launcher failed. Well, because the wrong part was installed. Anyway, this thing carries kerosene and liquid oxygen for refueling the Chestnut interplanetary vehicle. It would be nice to have one on station in time for the crew's arrival, although it's entirely not necessary. There's enough life support on station currently to keep a crew there supplied well through the next transfer window, and probably even 2 or 3 transfer windows after that. So we have ample time to bring them the fuel they need to return home. Booster's off and away. That was a couple of minutes ago. I'm sure you noticed that one just fine. And camera panning up as we burn through the remainder of the core stage, and then light the Hoff upper. We'll go ahead and extend the solar panels and kick the radiators to active so that we can try to preserve as much of this liquid hydrogen for our transfer burn as possible. By the Delta V numbers, we should have just a little kick in fuel left in the Hoff stage by the time we get to Venus to start our orbital insertion, although the bulk of that heavy lifting will be done on the back of the heat shield that's at the front. Anyway, so now that we are successfully in orbit, we will start to plot for Venus, and a distressing fact has come to my attention. Mech Jeb is telling us that the closest Venus window is a year and some change away, like almost 2 whole years, which is a little distressing, but I will try to plot out a node anyway just to see what a successful transfer will look like, and it turns out that it's very, very difficult to dial in to actually get that interception, and well, there's a good reason for that, but I will turn you over to old me. Well, it looks like it can be done for 4132 meters per second, and that's not counting the dial-in. That's 800 meters per second out of range for this vehicle, unfortunately. I'm real pissed off that Kerbal Alarm Clock has lied to us again. Although I'm glad I didn't launch the Crew, because Chestnut is a far more expensive vehicle. Let's bring up Maneuver Planner here. Lowest delta fees in 1 year, 251 days. God, I'm so mad about this. Add alarm. Let's see what Mech Jeb says about a transfer window from Earth to Venus, 10 days. Way to go. Way to go, dude. Alright, so we're just going to... Yeah, no, I don't... This is pretty dumb. Alarm. Oh, real Venus window. Time. 1 year. 251 days. 2 hours. And 3 mic. We're just going to ignore the seconds. Add alarm. Well, that's real depressing. What do we do with this vehicle now that we have it in orbit? That's a real good question. So we have so much fuel that's just going to burn off a heat shield that can do next to nothing, no parachutes for which to land it safely at Earth. I say the later you get in a realism overhaul save, the less and less accurate Kerbal Alarm Clock becomes at predicting transfer windows. You should probably use a different mod than what I do. Anyone else still playing in 1.1.3, take this to heart. Not the first time this has happened. Well, all right, let's go find something else to do. All right, and well, it looks like that next thing is going to be our little Jovian hamster here, making a pass into Jupiter's atmosphere at a punishing 278 kilometer perijove. And there's a Ganymede. We got a thing over there. That's kind of cool to see. This is actually a not insignificant picture, although it won't let me pan the angle the way I want. That's fine, whatever. Let's get a screenshot. Good enough for me. We're about an hour from a maneuver node to do, nothing. It's just a little bit of radial out to kind of touch this up a little bit. Maybe we can get a little more endurance out of the spacecraft as it plummets headlong into the atmosphere. But these thrusters are pretty efficient as far as how much fuel they consume. And I do want to make sure we have enough to keep pointing prograde for as long as we can. Oh wow, look at how quickly that goes up. So let's just burn through a little bit of this. Maybe 500 kilometers. This is really just kind of like a sounding test. We're just going to poke the depths of Jupiter and see what happens. We're doing this at a very inefficient moment because this thing has, I don't know, it's very maneuverable and very light. So, alright, 477, we're going to conserve the rest of our... Whoa, hey there, little guy! Yeah, that's, we're real close to Io. That's pretty cool. No connection with Earth, unfortunately, so we're just, this is all speculative, omnipresent data that we are getting, but we'll set a maneuver node here at our periapsis in about 2 hours. I think we can go ahead and warp through most of this. Let's get the good view, though. Oh, wow. Yeah, that is awesome. I really can't wait to finally burn something up at Jupiter. Oh, Kerbal alarm clock. Screwing up my time warp. As per usual. That is just awesome. Oh boy. Yeah, we're totally going to be facing the wrongiest of wrong ways, so we'll try to pop out a time warp at a little over 2 million, get angled into prograde, lock our vector there, and then finally be able to do something about this. Garbage collection. I don't want to run out of thruster fuel right at the most inopportune moment, but I think now is a good time to get ourselves turned around. Let's just operate on a single axis. I should have turned SAS off and gone instead with Mech Jeb, because yeah, see, I don't want that thruster counter firing and burning up all of our fuel. We don't have a whole lot to work with here. So we're just gonna angle it in, hit lock to prograde. Let's lock this open and then time warp. That is amazing. Wow. Really looks like rippling clouds across here. Did we hit Atmo? Is that why we popped out? Yep. We are below 1.5 million meter and officially now in the upper atmosphere above Jupiter's equatorial bands. So now I guess we just need to see what happens. Kill that maneuver node just so it's not distracting us. Please hold prograde. Thank you, sir. Alright, we are getting some heating on our heat shield. Let's lock this open too. I'd like to see how quickly that 20 units of ablator can ablate as we start to really get into the thickness of stuff. I wonder if we'll even cross the Terminator. And just one last check for any spacecraft in range. The answer is no. They'd have to be well within the orbit of Io here. Yeah, altitude 351 million, so that's about that distance, give or take. And maybe now we can actually see something interesting happen as this spacecraft meets its intended purpose to die violently in Jupiter. It's actually our first thing to die at Jupiter. I'm pretty sure I've ranted about that before, about how I've never actually gotten to blow anything up here, and it's a little disappointing, but oh man. That heat shield is pushing towards overheat. Oh god, if it goes, this whole thing is lost real quick. Boom! There it is. Wow. 850 kilometers. It didn't even ablate, it just overheated and poof. But man, wow, that is a really, really slim margin. I thought for, I guess if you want to actually get anything into the atmosphere, you're going to have to take a much more gradual approach to it. Dude, bummer. Well, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really do appreciate it, and I will see all of you in the next one. So, until then, see you later.